Now, wait a minute, mate. Eddie Hearn, you have no right to block Richardson Hitchins from working directly with Turki Alalshikh. All right? Look, folks. I'm a fan of Eddie Hearn as a promoter. I believe that Eddie promoter is one of the best, or probably the best promoter in the sport of boxing. He has a great mouthpiece. He knows how to promote events. He knows how to promote his fighter. But Richardson Hitchins did the honorable thing by honoring his contract. He ain't trying to snake you. He ain't trying to get off his contract, sue you, or things of that nature. He honored the contract, and now he's a free agent. You don't own Richardson Hitchins. He's not a slave to you, or things of that nature. Why is Eddie Hearn trying to block Richardson Hitchins? And why Eddie Hearn even feel disrespected by Richardson Hitchins when he honored the contract? Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Coppinger reported that Eddie Hearn, Turki Alalshikh, will only work with Matchroom on Richardson Hitchins fights. Why? Why? I know Eddie Hearn is mad at Keith Connolly, but for what reason? Let's not forget that Keith Connolly also represents Conor Benn, one of your golden goose, And y'all secure one of the biggest fights of this year, and probably the biggest fight in the UK in a long time, with Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Is he mad? Still mad that Edgar Berlanga did not re-sign or sign the extension with Matchroom Boxing? And got him working directly with Turki Alalshikh. And you already know Edgar Berlanga going to be performing versus Shiraz July 12th, Queens, New York. Is he mad about that? And he thought that, and he believes that that Keith Connolly was going to do the same thing with Richardson Hitchins like he did with Edgar Berlanga, and forget about the middleman and just work directly with work directly with Turki Alalshikh. What happened? Eddie Hearn called Turki Alalshikh. If you don't help me out here, mate, they're going to think that they don't need a promoter. And you're going to run me out of business, mate. These bloody fighters don't appreciate promoters. All right, you silver spoon-eating motherfucker, all right? I will not let that happen to you like they did to Edgar Berlanga. I will let you keep him. I will not work with him unless he's signed to you, all right? That's the deal? All right, mate. All right, folks, before we keep on going, I want you to smash that like button and subscribe to Punch Drunk Boxing. All right, let's keep on reading. I was disappointed with Richardson Hitchins' comments in the ring, Hearn told the ring. On the one hand, he says Matchroom have completely changed my life in 2 years, and then he wants to tell the world he's a free agent. It didn't sit well with me, so I pulled Richardson to one side quietly after back the changing rooms and told him how I felt. It felt a really bad taste in the mouth after all investments were made in his career. Eddie Hearn continues and says, I had a heartwarming call from Turki Alalshikh this morning, who confirmed he will only deal with Matchroom moving forward on Richardson Hitchins. So we will begin those discussions. And also during the interview that I was hearing out there on YouTube, I think it was IFL TV, Eddie Hearn was trying to say about he was talking about in referencing loyalty, that he's big on loyalty. Well, Eddie Hearn, let's not forget who actually made Matchroom Boxing with your father Barry Hearns. Who was the spearhead? Who was the golden goose? And that was Chris Eubank Sr. You talk about loyalty, right? Well, how did Chris Eubank Sr. felt about the negotiations and the fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn? Was y'all loyal to Chris Eubank Sr.'s wishes? Let's not forget, Eddie Hearn, the reason why you actually was born with a silver spoon in your mouth is because of Chris Eubank Sr. as well. Like, I get it. I get the investment that promoters and managers makes for a fighter and things of that nature. But let's be real, let's be honest. Just like how he was discussing Eddie Hearn in the interview, is that this is a business. And let me tell you like this. Was Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing loyal when they signed Subriel Matias for a multi-fight deal, right? Subriel Matias lost and they dropped him. Is that loyalty? Is that fair? Hey, yo, this is what I believe, ladies and gentlemen. If there's a contract there, you signed it, I signed it, honor the contract. right? Honor the contract. If you sign, then I sign, honor the contract. Just because now I'm a free agent, that doesn't, look, put it this way, if we go around our lives, because I believe that everybody that's listening to this video right now, there was somebody that has helped you along the way. Whether it could be a teacher, whether it could be a friend, whether it could be a supervisor, whether it could be a job. Some people get a job and stuff like that, and then they move up. What, is they supposed to bring the other people along that did something for them and things of that nature? Like, yo, this is just life. And this is boxing at the end of the day. To be honest, it's really hard to give examples of boxing and other entities because boxing is a wild, wild west, you know? Contracts in the sport of boxing, when it comes to a fighter's contract, is really an insurance for the managers and promoters. Like, think about it. In promoter's contract, just like we was talking about Subriel Matias, if a fighter could sign a five-fight deal, but within that contract, it says that the fighter loses, then the contract could be voided. You understand? So to be honest, I don't want to hear about this loyalty in the sport of boxing. The real honorable thing is when the fighters and the manager and the promoters honor the contract. Now, if Eddie Hearn is mad that Richardson Hitchins said in the post-fight interview that he's a free agent, let's not forget what they always ask fighters, right? What's next? Every time a fighter step outside of the ring, whether it was a post-fight interview, post-fight press conference, they always ask the fighter, what is next? So I don't know why Eddie Hearn feels disrespected by Richardson Hitchins. He should feel respected by Richardson Hitchins. He should feel respected by Keith Connolly, like I said. Keith Connolly represents Conor Benn. Keith Connolly represents Edgar Berlanga. Keith Connolly represents Richardson Hitchins and Teofimo Lopez, and he's done a wonderful job. See, in all reality is that Turki Alalshikh, he doesn't need the promoters, especially if he's going to be having events in Rehab Season or Ring Magazine. See, the only thing that gets in the way with promoters and Turki Alalshikh and fighters and stuff like that is because these promoters have these fighters under contract, so Turki Alalshikh had to work with these promoters. But when these fighters are not signed to a promotional company, then Keith Connolly, as a manager, could just work directly with Turki Alalshikh just like he did with Edgar Berlanga. See, the thing is, Eddie Hearn is mad because he's not going to get a piece of the pie of what Edgar Berlanga is making. And because, let's say, for example, Edgar Berlanga got a fight with Canelo Alvarez and Keith Connolly and Eddie Hearn make that come to fruition, right? See, what Eddie Hearn wants is a piece of the pie. But he ain't partnering up with these fighters anyway. Is he asking Richardson Hitchins, let's partner up into my company of Matchroom Boxing? No. This is boxing. You know what I'm saying? And it's effed up if Eddie Hearn is trying to sabotage Richardson Hitchins' progression business-wise to deal directly with Turki Alalshikh. You know, it was already effed up. We already see that Eddie Hearn, you know what I'm saying, was acting like a spoiled little brat when it came to Edgar Berlanga when he put Edgar Berlanga in the last fight of his contract as the co-main event to Ammo Williams, trying to teach him a lesson. No, my brother, this is a contract, bro. They honoring the contract. You know, and maybe later on, maybe y'all could work together, but in the end of the day, a fighter will be stupid to sign a promotional contract when he could work directly with Matchroom, with Turki Alalshikh. He don't have to pay a promotional fee. He doesn't have to pay that 20 or 25%, 15%, whatever percentage it is to be signed to a promotional company. That's like me giving money away. And that's what Eddie Hearn, he wants Hitchens to give money away. Let's be real, let's be honest. A fighter don't owe promoters anything. They go out there, they risk their lives. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there's manager, promoters, fighters, and everybody that does their thing to build the fighter. But at the end of the day, a fighter is the one that takes the most risk. He was talking about managers don't take the risk and promoters take all the risk. No, the fighter takes all the risk. They risk their lives. Y'all just risking money. And that's what Richardson Hitchins did this past weekend. Risk his life and honor his contract. See, what Eddie Hearn is trying to do, or what it seems like he's doing, he's trying to blackmail, you know what I'm saying, Richardson Hitchins. Oh, you gotta, if you think that you're gonna sign with Turki Alalshikh, or you think that you're gonna do this, you gotta be with me. You gotta sign with me. You better sign that contract that we got on the table. So we're gonna have a discussion. That's not fair. That's not right. That's not right. That's not loyalty. That's not real loyalty. That's somebody that wanna own you. That's not real partnership. That's somebody that want to own you.